Hi, my name is Paige Baxter, and this is my autobiography video for the conclusion of multicultural education this semester. Beginning with my regressive turn, I identify as a white woman, heterosexual, Christian from Southern Ohio, from Appalachia. I come from a town with $1 general, one elementary school, one middle school, one high school, very cut and plain. And my high school experience, I guess, and just my school experience in general, I went to a very poor district. A lot of kids there were on SNAP and stuff like that and had trouble, affording lunch and stuff. So we were a free lunch district. So I can relate a lot to like our poverty section and stuff that we learned about. And in high school, I played a bunch of sports. I did college credit. And originally I did want to be a teacher. And due to talking to one of my high school guidance counselors, I actually got talked out of the idea. So I graduated from Shawnee for the first time in 2023 with my bachelor's in healthcare administration, and I soon started working with a local health department teaching drug prevention to youth, and it's actually my current role now, part of it. And that kind of got my foot back in the door into a classroom and showed me that I did have a calling for teaching kids. I was right to listen to myself the first time, which didn't quite happen, but making it happen now. Back to my education, my school was primarily full of underprivileged white students. I could probably count on one hand the different ethnicities that were in my high school. My graduating class was about 50 people, so not a whole lot there. And I didn't really have a whole lot of teachers that went the extra mile and made a huge difference in my career, I guess. At least for me, could be different for other students and stuff. But I didn't have any that really went above and beyond to decrease stigma or to provide that kind of multicultural approach that we've talked about for the past couple weeks, whether it's, shutting down like racism and sexism, stuff like that, and like making kids feel okay that they came from poverty. That never really happened. It was just kind of known that everyone in that district was poor, which was kind of a blanket statement. It wasn't always true, but it is what happened in that case. Which brings me to my progressive turn. So for my progressive turn, I want to transition to being a full-time educator. That is my goal at the end of all this. As I said, right now, I am like a partial educator. Half of my job is teaching drug prevention to kids. So I see a ton of kids. Last school year, I saw it was between like 900 and 1,000 kids. So I'm seeing these kids for a couple visits, like up to 4 visits each, which allows me to create a little bit of trust and relationship with them and get them to kind of come forward about like some of their histories and stuff that I've like talked about in our classroom discussions and whatnot, but it's not quite the relationship I would like to have. So that's why I'm kind of pursuing my alternative teaching license. I did have one girl that was profoundly impacted by drug prevention. She had just grown up around people who have used drugs her whole life, and she was in middle school, and she came up to me and she was like, "Mrs. Baxter, can I hug you?" And I was like, "Yeah, I guess so." And she hugged me and she was like, "You should be a real teacher." And that kind of got the wheels turning for me to be like, she's onto something. Like I've always felt it and felt the connection to kids and education, but never enough to actually like pursue and see what my options were. So now that I found out that I don't have to do another 4 years in college, it is obtainable for me. So that is my end goal, is to be a full-time educator, but not only to teach to the test like a lot of teachers that I unfortunately do see do. I want to teach to the student, not just to like the 4th grade level student, but things that like the 8th grade level student can also take like into the real world and to help them deal with their problems. Because that's a lot of what I teach now is life skills at the end of the day. It's not just saying no to drugs. Like there's a lot more that goes into it. And that's kind of what I want to teach kids. Like obviously I want to hit state standards for my own career, and I want to teach kids to be free thinkers and to create a healthy classroom environment for them to question their own cultures and that of other cultures. I want students to be able to learn and grow in my classroom and become unbiased adults. And for myself, I would like to be considered an actual educator, because right now I'm like a part-time educator, and I get that from like a school perspective. I'm not with kids all the days that they're with kids. But to be credited for my life experience, like I would like to credit my students' life experience. And to be seen on that same level as a regular 4-year teacher is something I strive for in a school, and to be taken seriously by my students and by parents and by fellow teachers and administration around me. But primarily, I want to educate students to be able to take critical thinking skills into the next section of their life, and to create excited learners. Diving into the analytical and synthesized portion of this video, autobiography, I'm happy to report I am taking steps in order to achieve my goals. I am currently in school to receive my alternative teaching license, and I am applying and interviewing to multiple positions within my counties for English language arts, which is the subject that I would like to teach. And I think the steps to achieve my goal do align a lot with multicultural education because of the students that I currently see in my day-to-day work. I see students every day battling drug use that are from different cultures, different backgrounds, different races, different religions, different genders, all the things you could think of. No two stories are ever the same, and it always just is amazing to me of how, substance use disorder, which is what we call it at work, it doesn't discriminate, which is one of our favorite sayings, is that it just never picks just one type of person. It's not just your typical white male in their 30s. Like, it's also black women in their 50s. It's Asians in their teen years. It's all over the spectrum, and there's no actual identifying marks of it. But it's one of those untraceable, unseen, usually to the naked eye and probably to your eyes and other community members, that it's hard to identify in people, especially in kids, because kids come from all kinds of different backgrounds. And there are so many things that they bring with them from home, culture-wise, that sometimes it can get overwhelming to try and discuss with kids. But I do feel like this course has equipped me with enough knowledge to be able to at least carry conversations, about other cultures and how, in my current line of work, that substance use disorder does affect cultures differently. And now that I am able to talk to kids, talk to students, talk to faculty about school and community resources to benefit people from all natures. I've had students before that English was not their primary language, and it was very hard for them to understand what I'm saying, let alone what their actual English teachers that I'm teaching with are saying. So I just think that about teaching to the student was probably one of my favorite parts of this course, because I think it's so valuable that we do see students as individuals. It's not just, Mrs. Baxter's class, Mrs. Smith's class, a 5th grade class overall. There are so many individuals in these classes, and I'm sure that in larger schools it is much harder to kind of wean them out like that. But in the schools that I teach in, where class sizes are typically 15, maybe 20, 25 at the max kids, it's so much easier to make lessons personalized. And, if my learning style is different from a kid's learning style, I can't expect them to learn the content that I'm teaching in the way that I am, possibly. They could use a different teaching method that might speak to them better, which was definitely something I learned in this course. And another thing I really valued in this course is when the text was talking about how we're needing to credit other cultures and what they're bringing to the table. So, kids who don't understand us all the time, who maybe don't speak English as their primary language, they still have valid life experience that I think a lot of teachers are kind of sweeping under the rug, which I've actually seen. One of the students that I've taught that wasn't an English-speaking student, he, was just kind of swept to the side, and the school didn't really have the resources to try and help him or his sibling to learn more English. And I know that he understood what I was saying at times because of his pre- and post-test scores, that he wasn't totally out in left field like teachers had kind of led me to believe. So I think it's important that we really believe in our kids and we teach to a style that they can learn to, because it's not just, checking the boxes. I taught the kids this today. It's, did the kids retain that today? Is that the lesson that the kids also were taught that day? And how does it relate to their home life? I think kids come with a lot of baggage from home, and I think it's really important that we credit some of that, because it's not just, mom and dad read to me every night and that's it. A lot of kids aren't that fortunate to get that type of treatment at home, and kids often learn from bad situations, as terrible as that is, but they can learn the right things from bad situations, which is something I see all the time with drug prevention, is that kids often are a lot of times way smarter than I am about drugs, which is kind of alarming, but they often do learn from these bad situations, and they're able to help classmates and peers, and it's not always the kids that you would think it would be. It's not the straight A students all the time that have researched all of these medications and these drugs that we're talking about. It's the kids that are quiet in the back of the class that are oftentimes overlooked. And I think that's what really inspired me to become an educator and pursue my licensure that I am right now, is those kids that oftentimes are overlooked. And I don't want to end up seeing them again, into future substance use issues that I see a lot of adults in today. So I think really the prevention aspect really popped out to me in education, and is why I want to have my own classroom one day, to benefit these kids and to help them turn into good, functional members of society. And I want to cultivate a very inclusive classroom of all kids, and to really just pertain to their interests, to make lessons interesting to them, to relate it back to their life stories, to relate it back to their cultures, back to their families, and things that they actually will take home with them at the end of the day, not just, the Pythagorean theorem that nobody really uses in their day-to-day life often. And if this course has taught me anything, it's that I can make a difference, even if it's one student at a time, one class at a time, but this next generation of teachers can make a difference to be inclusive to all students. Thank you.